Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So you can see Zach's truck has moved pretty far along here. We are, like I said, not doing a whole lot of videos on this, but I wanted to show you this truck without its cab. So we got it sitting up on the two-post here right now. We're going to take this thing back inside and start more disassembly. However, I wanted to show you what we are dealing with on this truck. Now, this is called Project Farm Use. This truck was a farm truck its whole life, and you never know what you're going to run into with, tearing apart a truck. So this thing even has the original rear shocks from '95 on it, and they're still good, which is crazy. But we still got to take our body mounts off here, so we'll inspect what these look like underneath. We know we have some problems up here, and I'll show those to you. But the frame's not terrible, the cab isn't terrible, so we have a lot to do here. But wanted to show you the frame here, show you the bottom of the cab here, and kind of give you an idea of where Zach's truck is right now. So I'm gonna go ahead, show you all this stuff, and the next step for this truck is going to be getting it back in the shop and getting the drivetrain removed out of it. And we're going to start removing all of the brackets from the frame and get it prepped for sandblast. So the next time you see a video of this, it may be that it's blown up into a bunch of pieces. It may be painted. It's hard to say. So we're trying to get this thing knocked out for him. So that's why you're not getting too many videos on it. But we are moving forward here. So I'm going to show you what we got going on and show you what you need to look out for when you're doing this. So the frame looks pretty good, and the bottom of the cab does not look hideous. You can tell that this truck has had a leak for some time here. I can't really tell if it's from the transfer case or if it's a leak from back here, but we definitely have something going on here, and this is very nice. So this is some sort of bushing here. Not really sure what that is, but it's not what it's supposed to be. And then check this out. Not even threaded all the way in. I did not do that. And then we're also missing our breather here. You can see that it's broken off and hanging. So little stuff like that will be what you need to look for when you're tearing a truck apart. Obviously this truck is a ZF. I don't necessarily like ZFs, but when you have a ZF truck, you need to make sure that you disconnect your shifter here. It's very simple to do before you pull the cab. Otherwise your actual shifter is going to be in the way because it's not going to fit through that hole. Now if you have an automatic, you would have a cable that comes out here, runs down along, and would go to the MLPS on the side of the transmission. So that would be all you have to disconnect if you have an automatic. So if you have a standard here, you have to disconnect your clutch master cylinder. Now we are not going to be disconnecting this from the transmission because these things suck to bleed. So we're going to leave this completely attached so we don't have to worry about that. We do have a Borgeson steering shaft on this truck, and we have a redhead steering box, so that was a simple disconnect. And we did what we did on the E-Series van. We went ahead and disconnected our master cylinder, left it on the frame here. We will disconnect this once we get it back in the shop. We've also capped all of our holes, and we had a good air conditioning system on this truck, so we wanted to make sure we plug all these holes. Same with the cooling system. We just don't want any contaminants getting in there for some stupid reason. So you can see another plug here. But we went ahead and disconnected everything. So what's nice about the older trucks here is there's not a whole lot to disconnect. I mean, obviously we have our body bolts here that we took out. You have a ground right here that needs to come off. This one is due for a replacement. You can see the end of it's pretty loose there. But I need to kind of get these off of here. But judging by the way that this bracket looks, we should be okay. However, we weren't so lucky up here. We will be replacing this piece. As you can see, there's still rust falling out of it there. It's very thin. But this side looks great. We're still going to be removing these. So we're going to remove those anyway so we can get sandblasted behind them. We're also going to be removing our cab mounts here, our leaf spring mounts here, the leaf springs, everything. This is going to go out of here in pieces. So we have some shims back here. Those are going to be no big deal because we're going with the S&B mounts. And the bolts all came out, which is great. That's what we like to see. But the frame does not look too bad on this. We ended up getting our shocks off of here, and you can see that they say Motorcraft. So we've got some problem areas here with this frame. We're going to check out what happens here once we get all these brackets and stuff removed. So we'll probably do another video when we get to that. But bottom of the cab isn't bad. If you're using a 2-post lift, this is kind of what you want to do here. You want to try to grab this piece, and this piece, because if you pick up on just one of them, it's likely that you're going to bend them. And same thing in the front here. We have our mount here that's pretty structural, so we pick up off of that. But we don't have any broken bolts back here on the manifolds, which is great. Looks like somebody's been in here before. Not sure what they were doing. I know that he had some issues. They had the transmission out because of the flywheel, but I don't think we're going to be messing too much with this ZF. I know it has a new clutch in it, so that's great. But we didn't run into anything too surprising with this. The core support obviously was trashed, so it's on the back of the truck here, back there. It's all rotted out, but oil cooler looks a little bit rough. Looks like it's maybe a little bit damp, but we're going to be rebuilding that anyway. But the main pieces here look great. So another thing, when you're disconnecting your cab, so you can see we have all of our firewall plugs removed here, and there's no wiring harness out front. You want to make sure you disconnect your AC lines if you are leaving the compressor on the engine. If not, then you have to try to find a place for the compressor and your condenser, which would be out front, to hang out with the cab up here. So you need to make sure that you do something with that. Unplug your wiper motor and undo all the wiring that goes to these plugs. Now, I know we didn't have a discussion on this. It's not a big deal, but it's easier to see what needs to be disconnected whenever you're doing this. So like your map sensor that's up here needs to be undone, and your vacuum lines will stay up here with the cab. So you just got to get your main vacuum line off down here to the vacuum pump. But these are fairly simple to tear apart. I did most of this in approximately a day. As far as, you know, taking this truck from running, driving to, you know, the whole front clip off and the engine and everything. So it's not looking too bad. So I'm kind of happy with what we see here. The real question will be what's under these mounts, front and back. So those are going to be the main problem areas here. So once we get this thing all stripped down some more, we'll have another video and kind of show you what we ended up with, and kind of get you a game plan on what we got going on. So we got a lot of stuff to still take off of here, but we're moving along. So I know this is going to be a short video for you guys. I wanted to give you an update on Project Farm Use here. So it's going to be a lot more detail oriented a little bit later. This side of the process goes very quickly. I can tear one of these trucks apart in a matter of about 2 or 3 days. So, I mean, he drove this truck to me, and, you know, here we are today. But it doesn't take long to tear one of these down if you know what you're doing. The only things that we had to cut were the gooseneck bolts. Everything else pretty much came off. The radiator support bolts, the nuts came off, but we cut the bolts so that they don't have to go all the way down through the upper isolator. So that makes life a lot easier. So you can take away some tips on removing some of this stuff. If you don't have an induction heater, then I highly suggest buying one if you're going to be tackling a truck that's even close to this rusty, because that induction heater is going to make your life much easier. It keeps you from burning everything up. You can isolate what you want to get hot. So, you know, it's like the master cylinder bolts here for the brakes. I had to put heat to them and then put a 24-inch breaker bar on to get them to pop loose. That's how tight they were. Now, why they were that tight, I don't know. But I didn't want to snap the booster bolts off, getting off the master cylinder, because it's going to come off anyway. We may end up even replacing it. I don't know. We'll see what happens, because there's a lot of corrosion on the bottom of this master cylinder. So there's a lot of things that you'll run into when you're tearing apart your OBS Ford. Stuff that you're not going to know about, stuff that's not foreseen. So, I mean, we're getting pretty good here. We have one good radiator mount, the other one's bad. We don't know what's under these yet. I got to separate them yet, so they're pressed together. So I have a bolt that I put in there and hit it with a sledge and knock it down through. You know, we're going to have to get new bushings for the transfer case shifter, figure out why the transfer case shifter is not bolted completely to the bracket, and find out where this leak's coming from. So lots of little things. We may end up having to rebuild the transfer case because, you know, if that seal's bad on the front output shaft, then yeah, you got to tear it apart and fix it. So, you know, there's a lot of things that you'll run into when you're doing your truck here. But the main thing I can tell you is don't rush, take your time, go over everything, and make sure that you've gotten everything. So we picked this body up here today. No problems whatsoever. Nothing was caught, nothing was hooked. We didn't break anything. Everything was taken off because I was not rushed when I did this. I wanted to make sure that this was done properly. So I know that sometimes I talk a lot, so I wanted to give you guys some tips on what to do when you're tearing the body off your OBS truck. So that was the whole purpose of this video, other than giving you an update with Zach's truck here. So we're moving forward here. The next step's going to be get the drivetrain out of it, get the engine out, get the transmission, the transfer case, the drive shafts, start working on getting the frame completely stripped down, because if you're going to be doing something like this, then the idea here is, hey, take this bracket off. Yeah, it's riveted on, but take it off. The shock towers are bolted. Unbolt those. Take these off, especially in problem areas where there's a lot of rust. Take all the brackets off on the back, because you bolt them back on, but if you get in between those two pieces of steel, you're not going to have those corrosion problems anymore. So you get that layer of paint in there and get that protection. Otherwise, you can get bleed out and they continue to rust and you just don't know it. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the channel still and enjoying the videos. I know that we don't have a whole lot of videos of this truck, but we have a couple here. So we're going to try to keep a couple coming for you. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate it if you did. And hopefully you can take something away from my videos. So I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.